Hello, everybody. Thanks for coming back here late afternoon. You got a break, you got a little sugar in you, and now we hope to keep you awake in this session this afternoon. My name's Greg Buzek. My day job, I guess my first day job is I'm president of IHL Group. We're an analyst firm. My second day job is I lead a group called the Retail Orphan Initiative. How many of you have ever heard of it before this session? So three or four, five, well, about 8 people. What's that? It's a good audience for. What retail ROI is basically a bunch of do-gooders in the industry like you and me that said we'd love to use our skills and our talents to help kids and orphans and vulnerable kids around the world. You know, we all start our careers out of college idealistic, we want to change the world, and then somehow life takes over. And we get to about, we got school loans, we got car loans, we got house, we get married, we got kids, and we get to our 40s and start to wonder, does it really matter? And retail ROI is literally about rekindling that and using our skills, talents, and abilities to make a difference for kids. On a funding standpoint, we work with Clean Water First, education, then computer labs, et cetera. But what we're finding more valuable than anything else now is your networks and your talent. We do conference calls, video conference calls for 1 hour with students just to give them a vision of what's going on. We had a guy who was vice president of Schlotzsky's put $1 million kitchen into a school of 600 by using his network to get things funded there. And those kids, he put that $1 million kitchen in for $65,000 by leveraging his network and his skills and ability. So these kids got a lot of training, food safety courses, et cetera, on that. So Retail ROI, that's the charity. I've been told, and this is not from me, but through the folks at Retail Touchpoints, if you go downstairs and do one of their videos about this conference, about anything, they're going to donate $50 for you doing that, just to say a few words on camera about the conference. So with that, that's my background, and I'm going to go ahead and let everybody introduce themselves here on the panel. So we'll start with Marci here first.
So hi, I'm Marci Zaroff, and I am kind of a long-term sustainability innovator, as I mentioned earlier and during the luncheon. I started my career actually going all the way back. I was the kid with the lemonade stand, but I was inspired by a brand called Aveda and a retailer called Aveda, which leveraged the power of business for good. And I started my first business in 1990, which today is called the Institute for Integrative Nutrition, which is the world's largest nutrition school, having certified over 75,000 people as health coaches.
I'm one of them.
You are? You are too?
No.
And so for me, it was all about lifestyle, and I'm sure those of you who have retail locations know that, today's consumer is evolving and asking, what's next, what more, what else can I buy, can I support beyond organic food and eco travel and green building, and those dots are connecting. So in 1995, I coined the term eco fashion to revolutionize the fashion industry, and people used to look at me like I was insane, that would never work because those were two dichotomous worlds, and launched a brand called Under the Canopy in 1996, which became really the first sustainable fashion and home brand that launched the first sustainable textile initiatives with some of the biggest retailers, from Whole Foods and Aveda to Macy's, Target, Bed Bath & Beyond, Spiegel, and many, many more. So it's been a fun career, and now, relatively speaking, just taking off. So.
Mary?
I'm Mary Holahan, and I work for Dick's Sporting Goods. I'm the manager of digital marketing and social media. At Dick's Sporting Goods, our foundation is called Sports Matter, and everything that we do from a brand perspective and from retail, every activity that we take is because we believe that sports make people better. So Sports Matter, anything, as I just mentioned, has to ladder up to that. So a lot of everyone who basically works at Dick's Sporting Goods has some background in sports. A lot of kids play sports. So everything we do, sports make people better, and that's our brand ethos and something that we live for.
I'm Bridget Burns. I'm the social media strategist at Tom's of Maine, and some of you heard a little from me earlier. But basically, Tom's of Maine is a natural personal care company, and we've been around since 1970. And since then, giving back has been really important to our brand. So every year we give 10% of our profits back to the community to causes that support human and environmental goodness. And we focus primarily on grassroots organizations. And with our profits where they are now, we're giving back over $1 million a year.
I'm Kane Calamari. I'm responsible for human resources and the ACE Foundation for ACE Hardware Corporation. For those of you that don't know, we're a cooperative. We've been around for about 92 years. We've got just under 5,000 stores in 65 countries. Our foundation, our main focus with our foundation is the Children's Miracle Network hospitals, 170 locally owned hospitals, locally operated hospitals under the CMN umbrella. And for us, that's important because our stores are independently owned and operated, and giving back in local communities is what our stores are all about. So we thought it was a natural, we'll dig into it more as the questions come, but it was a really natural connection for local hardware stores to connect with local hospitals.
Okay, terrific. Well, the first question, we just jump right in here, is how do you guys select the causes of which you support? Is that something that's done by the employees? Is that something that's done by a select group of folks, the owner, et cetera? And are those local, national? How do you decide? So, anyway, go ahead, Mary. You go for it.
From the Sports Matter Foundation perspective, we have partnered with Donors Choose, which is a crowdsourcing platform that teachers use. Teachers can submit their campaigns, and if they meet the criteria of enabling sports participation, so everything has to fall within that category, it comes onto our sportsmatter.org website. And if they meet 50% from the crowdfunding, Dick's Sporting Goods will meet the rest. So we will fulfill the whole project amount, up to $25 million. That's what we've committed year over year, so a multi-year commitment.
Okay, Marci.
So given that our core selling proposition has always been sort of baked into our DNA, we've always looked at kind of connecting for social good as 1 + 1 = 11. How do we tell stories and connect to source where we can all win-win-win together? So because at the roots of our product, the sources are fair trade and organic and changing agriculture and supporting farmers and workers, our alignment has always been in the context of bringing those stories to retail and being almost a conduit for that. And so we get buy-in from across all of our stakeholders in that process.
Richard?
Sure. So we actually, in the past, have done a lot of the selection internally, and then more recently have been really wanting to engage our consumers in helping us to determine where the money goes. So last year we had a program, it was actually in its 10th year, and it's called 50 States for Good, where we award money to a nonprofit in every state. But for the first time, we put the nominations in the hands of our consumers on social media. So by tweeting or putting up a Facebook post or an Instagram with the hashtag #OneWayToHelp, they could let us know one way to help their community. And then at random, we chose one nonprofit from each state out of those nominated to receive $20,000.
Okay.
And for us, the majority of our efforts are towards Children's Miracle Network. About 25 years ago, we found ourselves bragging a lot about all the great things that our stores do in their local communities, because we always say our customers are our neighbors when the owners actually live in those same towns. But the folks running the company back then said we should do something on a grand scale, but we really needed to find something where we could really be local about our efforts, and that's when the partnership was forged. So, I mean, Children's Miracle Network's been around since 1983. They've raised $5 billion for those hospitals, $1 at a time. We jumped in 1991, and we're at about $72 million raised. And boy, the energy with the local hospitals and the local stores is something that we're really proud of. And we also do the Red Cross, but really the bulk of our efforts are Children's Miracle Network. And since we're a cooperative, our shareholders are our customers. So we've got a panel of store owners that kind of help us kind of guide the strategy around Children's Miracle Network.
Right. How many stores do you have now?
So domestically, 4,200 and about 700 in about 64 other countries.
Okay. And Mary, how many Dick's stores?
About 650.
Okay. So this next question, I would suspect is a little bit different depending on size, although all of you said you're both mostly doing local stuff, except you're probably international in the kind of things that you're doing. What are the key challenges that you faced and have faced in terms of implementing any sort of cause marketing, whether it's been branded material that does things or donations that are in place? So, And you go first?
For us, we found that all of our cause marketing does a really good job in consumer retention or keeping people loyal to our brand, but we've yet to really crack the code on cause marketing in a way that brings new consumers to the brand. We want to make sure that the messaging around giving back is really focused on giving back and with no like, oh, and buy our natural toothpaste. So a lot of times people know that Tom's of Maine gives back, but they literally don't know what we make. So that's something that we're working on currently with a lot of consumer research.
But are you doing anything in the area of a specially marked package that a greater portion goes there, or is it just top line sales?
It's top line sales, but we
Bottom line.
did recently start integrating. Our PR agency handles a lot of our giving back programs, but we've recently been encouraging them to work hand in hand with our shopper marketing agency, and so we're trying to do a lot more in-store executions around the programs.
Okay.
I would say for us, one thing that's really been eye-opening for me in the last few years especially is that the cause marketing related initiatives have always been driven by the marketing departments. And I think what's happening today is that it's going deeper into product. It's going deeper into, what's the story behind the story. And so one of the challenges, and to your question, is that the systems that retailers are built on don't incentivize based on these kinds of efforts, right? So merchants are based on pure bottom line. And so it's hard when everybody's operating in silos, even if you have buy-in at, marketing or sustainability or product development levels, the merchants are looking at pure profit, and so there's often resistance. And so there needs to be a cohesive, more holistic strategy when there's a cause marketing related effort, I think.
Have any of you tied, and I'm sorry, this is off the notes here. Have any of you tried to leverage private brand, well, you're probably all private brand things, which are obviously higher margins for you, and tied that to charitable giving in any way? Have any of you tried that?
We haven't specifically. So there's a bucket promotion that we do, and which is a 20% off. So we've done some things, but in terms of specific on product, very limited, but something that we should be looking at in the future.
We did a study, this is the research hat going on. We did a study a couple years ago that looked at the impact of what the opportunity was for private label products and driving more customers to those private label products, higher margins for you as a retailer, but being able to tell that story and giving it back. So I think of a company like Publix and what they do some really innovative things with their private brands there. But basically you buy our private brand, we're going to give you you buy the national brand, we'll give you the private brand for free so you can try it out. Kind of a unique way of getting them to test everything. But the opportunity to now take that and say you're going to buy the Publix brand of Corn Flakes instead of the Kellogg's brand there, and 5% of that is now going to go to help a charity in your local area. That can be a very powerful thing. So I was curious if any of you had done that. Mary, you guys do a mixture of local at the point of sale plus the other stuff, right? The stuff with the teachers.
Yeah, we have two. So the Dick's Sporting Goods Foundation, which is Sports Matter, is different than our community marketing efforts. Either way, the requirement is enabling sports participation. With the community marketing, we have, I think there's 60 across the country community marketing managers who are in the community, so working with teams and leagues, having discounted nights coming into the store to get their uniforms, and just having a real presence in the community and taking advantage of some sponsorship opportunities.
You had asked about, for us, the challenge is execution and adoption. In-store execution when you don't own the stores is hard. Making sure the cashiers are doing the right thing at POS, real challenging, I think, in retail in general,
Yep.
but when you don't own the stores, it's even harder. And then adoption for us. With 4,200 domestic stores, and by the way, they don't have to participate if they don't want. The team spends a lot of time working with the owners, engaging them in the cause, visiting hospitals, so forth and so on, to see if we can get higher adoption of the different promotions.
Are the systems the same in all 4,200 stores?
No, about 3,000 of the stores have the same POS system, and after that, it's a bit of a dog's
So
breakfast.
it plays into that too. You
Yeah.
had operational differences
Yeah.
and things there. So,
Yeah.
okay,
And some
good.
have a cigar box too, believe it or not.
Yeah, I believe it. I believe it.
Not kidding.
Yeah, I believe it. Can you give us an example of one program that you've done in your organization that has been particularly successful, something that people can learn from, that they did? You look like you're ready.
I kind of already touched on the one way to help, but I really want to talk to Mary more about their success with Donors Choose, because we're working with them for the first time this year. So this year, the $1 million is all going to go towards Green Your School initiatives, and people will be able to vote on it in the same way.
Yeah, and they've been a great partner.
Okay.
Yeah, one for us, because how do you connect the cause down all the way to retail to the consumer? And this bucket promotion is one of the things that we've tried, and it's been successful. But it's a big blue bucket with Children's Miracle Network all over it, and they get $5 for the bucket. Everything they stuff inside, 20% off. And so it creates some energy in the store. We do a display contest with the buckets, so it's some really cool, they have fun with these big blue buckets. But the nice part is we see our average ticket double, and we see our transaction count go through the roof during that. It's a 1 day, or I think 1 day promotion. And so that's just, the ROI on these is hard, but we really feel like that one, our retailers are engaging in that and like that, because they love the fact that the ticket's doubling for the day, and they love the fact that transactions for us are going through the roof. So it's cause, but for us it's creating some excitement in a store that, we don't have tons of transactions. It's a hardware store. Right? We don't get a ton of bodies rolling through the store, so transactions matter.
We did, I mentioned fair trade earlier. We did a massive kind of connecting of the dots between, probably most of fair trade certified coffee or chocolate or bananas. So in looking at what fair trade represents in the textile industry, it is a way to pay our workers and farmers, living wages, and then invest into their community. So we took sort of that story and connected into the whole fair trade story in partnership with Fair Trade USA, but then also in the partnership with the Wall Street Journal, some celebrities, and some of our retail partners like Macy's and Bed Bath & Beyond, to bring to market a fair trade certified robe and throw that consumers could then be activated, knowing that there was this sort of cohesive story and also opportunity for them, almost like easy activism. They could buy something they love and be a part of something good. So it empowered consumers.
Okay. We touched about this in our prep call. Are there any technologies that you use, or do you have any technology partners in specific that help you with the cause marketing piece or the donation piece of things?
Well, for us, it's Donors Choose. That's the platform that we use. The first year we ran Sports Matter, we did it ourselves, and I think using a partner who is more experienced in that is probably the better way to go, so we did that in year 2.
For us, it's our POS partners, Epicor, for 3,000 of the stores. And they were nice. They donated the time and effort to we call it Change Roundup. It's basically at the POS. You've all seen it at Walgreens and whatnot, but we just launched that this last month. And that simple concept of on the pin pad, rounding up, so $1.87, do you want to give the other? 500 stores, because we're still rolling out the technology, 500 stores raised $400,000 in 1 month. And the cashiers, which is important to us, are really embracing it. They'd much rather point to the pin pad versus selling balloons and so forth. So we're really excited, and our technology partner has been, and I don't say this very often about technology partners, they've been incredibly helpful. It's one of the few kind things I've ever said about them, actually. but they've been great. Epicor's been a great partner there.
Yep, Epicor, just as a side, Epicor and Aptos, the spin-off of them, have been a prime player in supporting retail ROI. And the functionality of the Roundup thing is now an NRF standard that was put into place in one of our events. A group of folks got together and said, let's make a standard for charitable giving at the point of sale, so we can get rid of all the coin boxes and all the other things there, so we have a good way to track it through the GL there. So that's a good way of how technology can play a part. Anybody else, technology partner or anything specifically there? Okay. ROI is kind of mushy in a lot of cases here. Now you've got the blue bucket, so that gives you some sort of something. Do any of you have any particular way that you measure the ROI, or it's just the ROI is not the important thing for why we're doing it?
We do measure it because we want to, we have a brand impact scorecard that we use, and we recently have moved in these campaigns from placing all the importance on impressions to really looking at the recall factor of those PR stories that end up getting written about the efforts. Because especially with the social media landscape, it can be really hard to accurately count impressions. And it can be really easy to overinflate them if you want. If you had a Twitter party, you could count every participant's followers as seeing your message, but it's probably not actually the case. So and this is not my direct department, but we focus now more on the impact scorecard.
How do you guys get the stories out about how the money is actually good? I saw another post today about Red Cross in Haiti and the failure of that in that particular situation. But how do you get the story that, okay, I gave to that, and the story of the Children's Miracle Network gets back to the people that donate?
If it's okay, and I hate to go backwards, but the ROI is so important because at the end of the day, we can sit here and we can't do that because independently owned hardware stores won't accept the fact that, oh, don't worry about the ROI because they're out there working really hard to make a living. So what we did, the only thing, we had our analytics folks, look, stores that give more and embrace more of our cause marketing and Children's Miracle Network make more money. They're more profitable. And it seems like, well, if you really think it through, and the data is really, really in front of us, says when you give back and let people know that you're giving back at the register and with signage, in general, those folks, is it directly linked? No, but clearly in our world, high profit hardware stores in our family are much more likely to embrace our cause marketing. So we do put that in front of our owners a lot to say it matters. Customers, especially these millennials that we all love to talk about so much, they absolutely want us doing more and more of this, and we've got to embrace it. And hardware store owners aren't 27 years old either. So we're trying to convince a population that's generally older, except the one in the room. He's very young. Very young. No, I'm kidding. So it's a challenge. But anyways, I just want to say, ROI is we constantly are churning on it and trying to make sense of it, because if we want our stores to embrace it, they need to see that it is good for their business. I don't think we've got it solved, but we're certainly trying.
Yeah.
So but I didn't mean to go back.
You hit on it. The millennials in particular, when we did that research study a couple years ago, I believe it was close to 60% of the millennials in the study said they would choose one brand over another based on whether or not that brand is giving back in some manner. If what I'm doing is helping somebody else, I'm far more likely to shop there.
Yeah.
So, sorry.
I would just add that, in 2005, the Natural Marketing Institute said there were sales of conscious products and in the conscious products industry were 198 million, and in 2020 they're projecting 1.5 trillion. And what that says to me is this millennial consumer is voting with their dollars. They're looking for transparency. They're looking for authenticity. They see through fake marketing. They want to feel like they're part of something, and they're going to vote for the brands, the companies, and the products that they believe are actually doing well by doing good. And I think it's in that regard, it is a new day for all the kinds of efforts. And so there's a lot of intangible ROI when you look at customer loyalty, and you look at, brand loyalty, and even employee engagement, because people feel like they're sharing a vision to do something good. And I think that, in that regard, there's a lot of value add in adding into and baking into the DNA. In fact, I don't know how many of you know who Yvon Chouinard, the founder of Patagonia, he wrote a book called Let My People Go Surfing, right? And he says that every time we step back, which might affect our immediate bottom line profit, to do something good, it comes back to us so much more. And that company has just been on an incredible positive trajectory because of their efforts. So,
absolutely. So getting back to the stories question there, how do you get that story back to your folks? Is it all social media? Is there any signage at the stores? Is it just simply through the donations themselves, and you rely on the people to sing your praises, so to speak?
I think there are two sides. Again, through Donors Choose, they have a great platform where the school, so that, as I mentioned, teachers are able to submit the projects, and those students actually send cards to the donors. So you can see like the one-to-one, and Dix just funds the other 50%. And then we, because we feel so passionately that billions of dollars are being cut from school programs and sports, could be extinct. We just launched a film at the Tribeca Film Fest called Keepers of the Game. It followed a high school girls lacrosse team in upstate New York. who were traditionally Native Americans, and it was a really touching film. So we had the premiere at Tribeca, and that is just all advertising towards the sportsmatter.org.
We have our message on every piece of packaging. So we have what we call our goodness box, and it outlines some of the stewardship guidelines of our company. And so one of them does say specifically, 10% of profits to human and environmental goodness. So there's that. And then as far as like deeper storytelling, like the film that you guys did, we did just a short video, but rather than posting, one image from each of the 51 nonprofits, we chose one nonprofit to do a kind of deeper dive video into. Because when you tell the story through their words, it's so much more impactful. Mm-hmm. And we've found much greater success in promoting that on social media than we have in years past, where we've tried to showcase all of the nonprofits.
Really, so two things for us. It goes back to connecting the retailers to their local hospital. And at times they'll say, well, it's 4 hours away. And so what the team will do, they'll actually go in and because it's 62 kids are admitted every minute into a children's hospital across the country. 1 in 10 kids in North America will end up in one of these 170 hospitals. It's an amazing number that go through there. And so we'll actually do a map and show them in your community in the last year, 112 kids in your community, even though it's 5 hours away, just to prove that, no, it impacts your community. The other thing we do is we have a child all-star every year. So we choose an all-star. Her name this year is Casey Harvey out of Phoenix, cancer survivor, 14 years old. She's just this incredibly brilliant, bright young lady who just went through incredible challenges fighting cancer. And so in the store we have signage. She comes to our convention and speaks, and it's something for us to rally around. So it kind of brings the cause to life, literally, kind of. But for us, it's nice to rally around a child and her story, and it's great to get her in front of groups like this. We'll bring her into a group of ACE retailers, and she'll tell her story and engage. And so it's somehow, because hospitals in general are very dreary things, right? It's a hospital. But boy, when it's a child that's been there and has been through incredible challenges, it's a much more positive message for our owners.
I think you hit on it. I think the key to the storytelling is the power of one. It's not the number of kids or the number of hospital or how much money that was raised. Just tell that one story. I know one of our partners, before we started working with them, they won the Chase Giving Awards on TV. I don't know if you guys remember that. And they made a story about one girl. And they said, I am Abigail. And that became the campaign. And they went out and everything. They got all these college students to write I am Abigail on their head. And they end up winning the $1 million as a part of that because it resonates with one. Because I think we just get overwhelmed with the numbers and things there. Who do you guys admire as your peers in the retail industry in terms of giving back? Who are those people, whether it's brands that you know of, whether it's even organizations that have teamed with one or more retailers? Anyone?
I'm sorry.
Oh, no, go ahead.
I think, some of them are the obvious, right? Like Tom Shoes and Warby Parker that have been really at the forefront of creating one-for-one campaigns that are, baked into their core, value system. And they've kind of put it out there to align their personal and their professional values and not keep their company separate from their efforts. It's part of who they are. And I think that's what's resonating for that next generation.
Yeah, we get a lot of undeserved credit for Tom's Shoes. Yeah. A lot of tweets coming our way thanking us for the shoes. But,
have any of you ever been on the other end of distributing the shoes? That's a pretty cool experience.
No.
Oh, no.
To pass out the extra pair of shoes.
Oh,
I
really?
got to do that.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
on one of our
Virtually.
trips. Yeah, one of the cool things about Retail ROI is we travel with our kids. And one of the most fun thing is watching my peers light up when their kids are reaching out to kids in need. And a big part of that is Tom's Shoes. They're passing out the pair of Tom's Shoes to the child that doesn't have it. Or
wow.
It's a school book, a coloring book, or something like that. It's really, really, really special.
I will say that one thing that we really admire about them, and we talk about them in some of our meetings about how we can improve our own giving strategy, is that it's very single message. It's really easy to understand. You learn about it with your first purchase. Mm-hmm. We haven't cracked that nut yet, but that's something I really admire about Tom's Shoes.
Now, do any of you, and I don't know, do any of you use celebrity folks as part of what you're doing in terms of your giving back strategy? there?
We do.
You do?
Yeah.
We do
Who's
too.
it?
We haven't signed anyone for this year yet. It changes a lot who we partner with, but usually we'll find someone who has a nonprofit of their own, so that rather than paying a celebrity to do things for us, we'll make a donation to their nonprofit and ask them to help promote our giving in exchange. So.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we've done the same thing, whether it's, Patricia Arquette has a nonprofit called Give Love, Lauren Bush, the Feed Foundation, Alicia Reiner, who is an authentic, green, passionate conduit and ambassador for the green movement. And I think, what's beautiful about when you're doing good and it's coming from the right place is that a lot of celebrities will support these efforts without even charging, because they actually, if you align with what they're passionate about, because they want to, leverage their celebrity for good.
For me, on the person that I would kind of look up to, and it's a strange choice, but our biggest competitor is Home Depot. Not direct competitor, it's a big box, but Bernie Marcus, if you know the founder, met him a number of times, and he is an incredibly passionate, caring, and giving leader that since the day he started that place till today, he is all about giving back. So the Home Depot Foundation is a very spectacular foundation. I think it comes from the founder from day one, setting the tone, and I think that company, even though he's not part of it anymore, still has that same mindset. Even though they're a big box that does 80 some odd billion in sales, I think they still have a big heart. Even though they're my competitor, we look up to them that way in a little bit, in a little way.
Yeah, I think Chick-fil-A has really done a really great job, and you wouldn't know it unless you read the books. It's not something that's out there, but the number of homes that they have purchased for foster kids and orphan children. So I know that one because of what I do, but that's one I look up to. Okay. I think we're just about out of time, but what advice would you give to charities that want to work with retailers like yourselves?
I would say do a little bit of research before you contact the company directly. We get a lot of people reaching out to us through like Facebook inbox messaging, which is really not the most effective way to do it. But also, we have a 10-year history of giving away the majority of our money in the fall with an application process in the early spring. So if you pay attention, you'll know that, and hopefully not miss the opportunity to be included.
Do you guys, any of you, have like a requirement? This might be hard to do. A requirement that somebody within your organization is already actively involved with that charity before they're considered as part of what you're doing?
Our only requirement is that the charity not do animal testing, because that's something that would really only come into play with certain medical charities that do medical research, but that is a requirement. And then we also look at their operating budget, because we want to make sure that they're a smaller organization.
Sure. What's your cutoff in terms of admin? Do you know that off the top of your head?
I don't know that off the top of my head. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, and for us, we've kept it really simple. For the last 25 years, I would say 98% of everything we do is for the Children's Miracle Network hospitals. We let the owners in the stores do a lot of that local giving, so we turn down a lot of opportunities. We do a little bit with the Red Cross, because obviously when tragedies happen, hardware stores become very popular, so we want to be helpful, and our motto, our brand, everything we're about is helpful. But we've kept it very singular focused, but we feel like we're doing a good thing. And as a cooperative, we're fairly conservative in nature, so we've just stayed focused on that, and my guess is it'll be that way for the next 25 years.
Yeah, that's the same. Just enabling sports participation and separate from Donors Choose, which is the foundation. We do have an online process application for teams and leagues and organizations and communities as well.
But no requirements of people, an employee as a coach or anything like that? Okay.
I would just say, I would liken it to when entrepreneurs are trying to raise money that, you might have a great idea, but you have to find the right fit as, with investors, right? So same thing when you're looking for the kinds of organizations that you want to align with, there has to be a win-win in that equation, that the whole is greater than the sum of its parts, right? So how can we, add value to each other's efforts? It's not a one-sided road.
Yeah, I think we'd all agree on the fact that a really poor decision for any retailer is just choosing a major charity for the sake of the fact that they're a major charity. If they don't align properly with what your mission is and what you're doing. Like, for instance, it makes no sense for REI to pick something that's not related to anything related to REI, like clean water or some sort of aspects of conservation. So that's a big deal there. So how are we doing on time? Sorry, we got 3 minutes left. Any final thoughts? Any recommendations? Any questions in the audience? Yes, Greg.
So if I have it right, Tom's got acquired, or it's a subsidiary of Colgate-Palmolive.
Yep.
Have you had any luck sort of percolating up your ethos of giving and participation into the parent?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. Colgate actually has always done a lot of giving back, and they're also really huge on sustainability efforts around the world. They just don't like to talk about it as much. So that's been really interesting. Their products really, it's a necessary product, so people are going to buy toothpaste, mouthwash, etc. With Tom's of Maine, we're appealing to a slightly different consumer. It's a slightly higher price point based on the ingredients and the practices that we're using. So that story about giving back, I think we get a little bit more out of that than Colgate does. But we have been finding that they are starting to become a little bit more public, and they're about to release their first public sustainability report, I believe. So that's really encouraging.
Anybody else? Any final thoughts?
I would just add that, there is a kind of a new paradigm for business that's kind of on fire right now called B Corp. I don't know how many of you know B Corp, 1,500 companies and, 140 different industries in 30 countries around the world. It's a new form of governance that measures ROI and success from a place of people, planet, and profit. And of course, add on passion and purpose. It's not just about the bottom line anymore. So.
The only thing I'd say is for us, we like to, although we're conservative by nature, we like to take some risks. Our retailer from Brooklyn, who's in the room, Matt Mazzoni, called us one day and said, candy bars, the soccer teams, everybody does these stupid candy bars. Why aren't we doing something with those? So we found a candy partner, and he started it, and now we've got 1,000 stores selling candy bars, and 1.2 million candy bars later, and $600,000 going straight to the hospitals. Summer doesn't work so good, by the way. We struggled in the summer. We learn the hard way. But it's stuff like that. So although we're a co-op, we're fairly conservative, trying new things because we never thought we could generate. It'll be $1 million, in the not too distant future. So trying new things in terms of cause marketing, and we'll fail sometimes, but and the candy bars will melt in the summer. So be it. But those are the kinds of things we're trying to kind of be a little innovative in this world.
Okay. Anyone else? Well, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.